wizard, Harry.
What's up, wizards, witches, and muggles? Welcome to the first episode of Potter Watch, a podcast within a podcast where the Fantasy Files crew and friends go through the entire Harry Potter series, book by book and movie by movie. Today is what we're referring to as Episode 0, where we'll be discussing some of our general thoughts on the world of Harry Potter, how we got into it, and what we love about the series, books and movies included. In the upcoming episodes, we'll be diving deep into one book per episode as well as the corresponding movie, and when we finish them, we may decide to go on to some of the Fantastic Beasts stuff, that if that's what you guys want, or we can do more topical discussions on the wonderful wizarding world. We will be potentially spoiling stuff from the series as a whole, so just be forewarned as we get going here. It's not going to be like our Dresden Files read-along episodes where we only spoil things from the specific book that we're discussing at the time. So just keep that in mind. With that being said, we are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe, and we are joined by Katie Roome from Periapsis Press and Garrett from The Last Call. We actually just did a Creator's Corner with him not too long ago, and it was excellent. So go check that out. It'll be linked in the annotations above and the description, as well as all of their kind of links and stuff down there. We'll give them a chance to introduce themselves in a minute, but speaking of things being linked in the description, you can reach out to us on Twitter, Discord, and Patreon, the last of which you can get exclusive content on for just $3 a month. It helps support the podcast, and you can watch Gabe and I make complete fools of ourselves and go wildly off topic and play just like a bunch of fun games and stuff like that. So before we introduce our guests, I'll just answer the question that's on everyone's mind. Yes, I did buy a wizard hat just for this episode series. You're very welcome.
Well, now you're gonna have to wear it every single Potter Watch.
Oh, I will for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, good.
that's
good.
why I got it. Yeah,
All right.
definitely, without a doubt. So welcome, Garrett and Katie. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and talking about this wonderful book series that we're all clearly in love with. Would you guys like to kind of introduce yourself, and in case people don't know like what your YouTube channel is or what your blog is or whatever, we'll start with Garrett down there.
Yeah, my name's Garrett. I'm from The Last Call. We do spirit reviews, talk about them in depth, helping people learn no matter what background you come from. And yeah, just a resident nerd as well, into just about every kind of thing from Harry Potter to Star Wars to everything else in between. So really, thank you
Nice.
for having me on.
And you have a gaming channel as well, right? Where
Yes,
you do,
I also have a
walkthroughs.
side gaming channel called In-House Gaming, where I do basically Let's Play style from start to finish on all sorts of games, from easy RPGs up to long form content like Harry Potter.
Nice. Yeah, everybody should go check out The Last Call on YouTube. I literally use it, I'm not kidding, every single time I go into the liquor store. I will go to his channel and I'll be like, "Oh, what does he say about this whiskey?" And like, yeah. So I use it a lot. You guys should check it out if you guys like your whiskeys or rums or whatever. So Katie, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Katie Roome from Periapsis Press. Periapsispress.com is a site where I review indie sci-fi and fantasy. And my love of science fiction and fantasy sort of started as a kid with Harry Potter. So
Awesome.
I'm excited to talk with you guys about it.
Very cool. Well, we will have all of their links down below if you guys would like to check out more of their stuff. We'll have their Twitter linked, and then whatever, like their YouTube or website or whatever down there. So before we really get rolling here, I do want to tell our viewers that we have an upcoming, we're calling it our Christmas episode. It's going to be recorded right before Christmas, and it'll go up right after, probably right before the end of the year. And that'll be our top fives for books, games, movies, TV shows, everything that we loved from this year, plus a bunch of other just various topics and stuff. We have a guest coming on, as far as I'm aware. That's Jim from Fantasy for the Ages. So I'm super excited to chat with him again. He's a good friend of ours. And we'll also be opening some presents like we did last year, which was really, really fun. Hopefully nobody will get coal in their stocking again this year.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, do we want to kind of go around and say how we all got into Harry Potter, like where we started with it? Even if it was from like a really young age or if it's more of a recent thing, I would love to know. So why don't we start with Gabe, and you
Yeah.
can talk about how you started with Harry Potter.
Yep. So my mom is also a huge Harry Potter fan. Has been since her earliest memories of, when it came out. And so as a kid, I watched all the movies. I never read the books, but I watched the movies 1,000 times, all through and through, and watched them as they continued to come out. And then just recently, Spencer had his first hiatus with the books, and so he freaking loved it. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna read them. I'll read them. And so I started and fell in love all over again with the series. And I'm playing the Hogwarts Legacy game, by far one of the best games I've ever played. I'm just like really hooked on Harry Potter right now. So
Yeah,
yep.
for sure. Garrett?
I actually started probably as 7th or 8th grade. It was whenever the 4th book was coming out that our school actually, I don't know, they just basically let every kid pick out one of the books for free of 1, 2, and 3, and kind of just delved in it from that point on, of just reading every book front to back multiple times. Being you got to see all the opening nights for the movies eventually hitting. I was
Mhm.
there. People were just it was a cultural experience for my age, and that's just something that I've loved and shared that love with other people with.
Right on. Katie?
Uh, let's see. The first movie came out when I was in about 5th grade, so that's when I jumped on the wagon for sure.
Nice.
But I came from a Christian household, and my parents were never like fantasy's bad or anything, but they were cautious. And so my mom read the first 3 to me out loud, which turned
Okay.
into a really fortunate experience because
Yeah.
I have that connection with my mom. So I never went to the movie releases or the book releases,
Oh, okay.
but I really treasure my early memories
Yeah.
of reading Harry Potter with her. So
Oh, that's awesome.
awesome.
I love hearing about, now that BookTube is a thing, and a lot of the people on BookTube are like my age or around my age, and a lot of them have young kids, and it is so heartwarming to, hear a lot of these dads and moms that are reading fantasy to their kids at night before bed. And I see that and I'm like, oh man, I wish I had that. You had a much cooler mom than I did, Katie. Not that my mom isn't cool, but cool in the way that like she was adamantly against Harry Potter growing up. I too grew up in a Christian household, and she she was not into the Harry Potter thing. She thought it was super like satanic and all this other stuff. So I really didn't get the whole experience when I was young. And then by the time I got to be the age where like, whatever, well, like 13 or somewhere around there, where I'm like, I could read Harry Potter if I really wanted to. Like, she wouldn't say anything about it at that age. But like by the time I got to that point, I was like, it's just like it was this thing that everybody like really loved, and I just didn't like quite understand it. And so it never really clicked for me. And then of course, as I got older, I was like, well, now I'm like too old for it. Now I really don't understand it. And at some point in college, I think I was like 20 or 21 or something. My buddy sat me down. He's like, "You have to watch the Harry Potter movies. You've never seen them. You have to watch them." And I was like, "I don't really care. Like, sure, we can watch it. Okay." I sat down and I watched them, and I thought they were fine, but I was also like, we were also watching them while we were playing like beer pong and stuff. I wasn't like really paying attention to it. So then of course years go by, and we start the channel, and did that for a couple years, and I'd still kept hearing about people around my age still loving Harry Potter, and I'm like, okay, like that's awesome. That's surprising, but that's cool. And then Hogwarts Legacy came out, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I started playing this game just because it looked like a fun video game. I didn't care that it was Harry Potter, it just looked like a fun game. And as I did that, I was like, I have to know more about this world. This is so interesting. This is not what I thought Harry Potter was. I thought it was something not like insanely different, but I thought it had a very different vibe than everything that's going on here. And so I picked up the first book, and pretty much right from the first chapter, I was completely hooked. I was texting we have like a podcast WhatsApp group, and I'm like, guys, I picked up Harry Potter. Did you know that this series is amazing? And they're like, yes, we did. You idiot.
How it goes.
Uh,
And I'm like, oh, why have I never read this? They're like, we don't know. Like,
Yeah.
so so yeah, I had an incredible experience at this age, being able to go through it for the first time. And I kind of I would make a tweet every day when I would be at like a new, like, interesting part of whatever book. I would like screenshot where I was, and like I would like leave a quote, or I would say what I thought of a certain scene. And it kind of blew up. Like, a lot of people were following those tweets and like, oh, I want to see what you think of the next book and stuff. And so that just encouraged me more. And it was just, it's been a fantastic time this year getting into Harry Potter. There was multiple times throughout the series that I cried and I laughed, and there's so many great, like, emotional moments and heart pounding, like, action packed moments. It really just has it all. I really, really love this series. But yeah, then I watched the movies, and we'll talk about those in a minute too. But I really liked being able to read the book and then immediately compare the movie and kind of see how they differ and what I liked and what I didn't like. Um so yeah, that's kind of how we got to where we are now. I put out a Harry Potter review. I want to say it's like 3 months ago now or something, and it did very well. And I put out multiple polls through our YouTube community page and our Patreon. And I basically said, hey, what do you guys want us to focus on in the next few months? Do you want to see Dresden Files? Do you want to see more like Cosmere, Brandon Sanderson stuff? Or do you want to see Harry Potter? And if I'm not mistaken, I think Harry Potter ended up at like 94%. Like,
Wow.
everybody
There you go.
wanted to
Yeah.
see Harry Potter. And
Nice.
so and what's funny is those other two series do very well for our
Yeah.
channel. And so I was really surprised to see that Harry Potter was the one that won by a complete landslide. So yeah, then we kind of came up with the idea for Potter Watch, and I could not be more excited to go book by book and movie by movie throughout this whole thing. So really,
Can I
yeah.
just wanted to ask, you said that it had a very different feel from what you were expecting or what you had sort of previously conceived of it as.
Yeah.
What did you think of it as?
I thought it was gonna be a very I not quite like Terry Pratchett, but I thought it was gonna be like a very funny, like comedy, goofy kind of
Sure.
children's thing. I didn't know that there was like these, like, especially once I got into the books, I'm like, oh, this is sad. Like, this
Yeah.
is really, really sad. The first book made me cry like more than a couple times. Like Harry going through everything he did with the Dursleys. I was like, oh my gosh, the abuse he suffered
Yeah.
from this family.
Yep.
And then the first book, and a lot of the books really, but especially the first book, dealt with this incredibly deep-seated loneliness that Harry has. And just his whole, I've read a million books where the main character has dead parents. I don't know if I've ever read one that like tugged on my heartstrings as much as Harry's parents did. Like, the whole, well, and again, we'll talk about it later, but the Mirror of Erised, the moment where he like finally sees them, like, I don't know if I've ever cried so hard at a book in my life. Like, that scene got me so good. So kind of just going through the whole thing, I'm like, so clearly this is written for kids. At least the first few books are. Like, obviously it's marketed to kids. It's meant to be a children's story, but I can't think of any other series that is just as meant for kids as it is for adults. Like, I read through it as an adult, and I didn't feel like it was talking down to me, expecting me to
Right.
be like a child. Everything I read, I felt like it was, it was just a great mix of being like at my reading level, but also being accessible for kids. And there's so many storylines that twist and tie through and kind of pay off in the end. I'm like, this is like a legit fantasy series. This isn't just like monster of the week, what I would expect for a children's book. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, but
Yes, thank you.
I guess I kind of just listed mine. Does anybody want to talk about specifically what they love about Harry Potter? Like, is there something in this series that specifically like just kind of took hold of your heart, whether it's like the friendship or the action or just the story in general? What is it for you guys that keeps you coming back to Harry Potter?
Well, for me, it's whimsy. I
Yeah.
think Rowling does a really excellent job of taking sort of ordinary things and then making them like feel more special, like
Yeah.
with just a goofy 2-syllable word,
Mhm.
2 or 4, however
Yeah.
many she needs.
Yeah.
I think the escape that Harry Potter provides
Yeah.
is really top notch.
Mhm.
It really allows you to go to a place.
Mhm.
Hogwarts is so well described, not just in like how it looks, but the experiences are all there
Yeah.
in a way that when you read it, you're completely immersed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
So
so
I
true.
think that's probably my favorite part.
That's a great answer.
That
Yeah,
is
and
good.
building off that, being, starting off being I was in 7th grade, 8th grade when I started reading it, same thing on how it was worded in the books. It took you there. You, as a kid, you just felt like you were there, from the descriptive terms to, you know, anything from the spells to the creatures involved. It it just painted the world so perfectly. And for me, even being an adult, rereading them and re-experiencing them again, I can now just add more details to that now, being that I'm
Mhm.
older and I've been experiencing more of the Harry Potter world. And I gotta say, it's probably one of the, when you really look at fandoms out there with all the other movie book series, like, it's held the test of time when you really look
Yeah.
at it. And I think that just shows it even more on how well the book's written. There's, you have all these other fandoms out there, but when you look at Harry Potter, man, it is just a whole nother world.
That's very true.
And I think that's just part of how that descriptive terms came into things to really paint that for people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Harry Potter is a household name.
Yeah.
Even in houses that don't have never watched the movies or read it, it's known.
Yeah.
It's something that is and will always be. Um, for me, so again, I think the thing right now that's probably got me most, I guess, into it, for lack of a better word, is, for me, it's memories. I just recently started the books and I have not finished the series. I'm not even close yet. So I don't want to say, you know, what
You've
about the
seen all the
series
movies and
would say.
stuff.
I've seen all the movies. It's been a while, but I
Yeah.
think for me, man, it's just like, Saturday night and curl up with mom on the couch and we watch a Harry Potter movie. It's like some of the best memories I've ever had.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's just one of those things that's like, no matter what. Plus, I'm playing the game,
Mm-hmm.
and that the game is just astonishing.
Oh man, they
Like,
go hand in hand, don't
astonishing.
they?
Yes, it's incredible. It's made me just fall in love with Hogsmeade and Hogwarts and all of the, Forbidden Forest, all of it. I'm just like
Yeah.
all in for it. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
that
you guys
well,
talk about crying at parts in the books. Like I've been in the rereading stage of the books and the rewatching stage of the movies for so long that I haven't
Uh-huh.
cried about it for a while.
sure.
Well, I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
to the end of the game and I was
Yes.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yes, exactly. I know. I just finished it yesterday. At least the main
So good.
storyline, and oh
Yeah.
man, dude, incredible.
Oh, it's so good. And it's such a great experience reading the books at the same time as playing the game, because you're reading through the books, and there's some things that just kind of like get like an offhand mention, like a puffskin or like some like a jabbernol or some like weird magical creature that is literally in like one sentence of the books. And then you play the game and it's like, oh, I can actually like interact with this thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or you hear about like different spells and it's like I can cast the spell in the game.
Yeah.
And then of course like just the castle itself, which I'll talk about more when we get down to talking about Hogwarts Legacy, but that is an absolutely incredible experience going through both of them at the same time. And I think you guys have fantastic points. It's the way that the story transports you to this other place. And Katie, you said it so well with, in other fantasy books, it's, a hero going on an adventure. Maybe it kind of like spans a continent or the globe or whatever. But Hogwarts is a place. And not only that, it is home to Harry. There's so many times throughout the entire series where he calls this place his home. And I feel like every time you open up the next book, it really does feel like coming home. Like you feel like you're coming home to Hogwarts. And especially just like spending so much time there and with all the characters, you feel like you know them and are invested in them so much by the end of the series. I really, really felt attached to a lot of the characters and a lot of the relationships in the story. I particularly liked, of course, the magical trio. And I think it's so interesting because you look at something like Lord of the Rings, which I just read Fellowship for the first time this year as well. And that relationship between Frodo and Sam, you see that a lot in the kind of the golden trio, is like these characters that will do anything for each other and they're so committed to each other. And that was one of my big takeaways from the series, just this awesome friendship that developed at this school from like pretty much the first day. And so, yeah, I love it. People talk about, the magical world of Harry Potter or whatever. And I think, while I was reading through the series, I was like, this, more than a lot of other fantasy books I've read, this legitimately feels magical. Like there is something magical in these pages. And that's the best word I could use to describe it, is it feels like real whimsy, magical, whatever word you want to use. It's definitely there in the books. Okay, so Gabe and I just took the Pottermore quiz. I think you guys took it a while ago. What houses did we all end up in?
I'm Hufflepuff, which
Okay.
surprises a lot of people, but I am.
Okay. Do you see it yourself, or do you like
Oh,
dispute
yes.
it? Okay, for sure. Okay.
A lot of people want to shunt me into Ravenclaw because I like books.
Right.
Can speak somewhat eloquently about them.
Yeah.
But loyalty and like
Yeah.
interpersonal connections and stuff, that's kind of my my thing. So
very awesome. Garrett?
I am a Slytherin.
Yes.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yep. No, took that. Yeah, many moons ago, took that quiz, and yeah, looking into, deeper into some of the characters that we don't really think about as being Slytherins from the movie and the book series. Like, okay, I could see.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I think one thing the books did like very poorly, in my opinion, is how the Slytherins are shown, because every Slytherin we see is like a bad guy.
Yeah.
People try to make a couple exceptions, but I'm like, there's no exceptions. Like every Slytherin we see in the books are not like a great person. But yeah, I like that a lot. What do you think, Gabe? What's your house?
Ravenclaw.
Woo! Let's go. All right. Yeah, that's awesome. What do you feel like that fits? Like kind of the astute, like book learning researcher kind of?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I feel like that fits all that
Right.
well. There was one question on there, and I don't know if this is true. Maybe you guys can tell me, but it was like, they asked what superpower you'd want or whatever, what magic you'd want, and mine would be to talk to animals.
Oh,
And so I
okay.
don't know if that has anything to do with
Oh, that might
Ravenclaw
have.
or not, but in my head I was like, maybe that's what sent me over to that side.
Right.
But I love books.
Possible.
I love reading. I like talking about books. So maybe it's a good fit.
Okay. Hermione should have been in Ravenclaw, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hermione definitely should have been in Ravenclaw.
I also think it's really cool that the game lets you tie that to your quiz online and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I think that was a really it's a small minute thing, but I think it's really cool.
Yeah, that was really smart. Obviously, I didn't do it because I hadn't taken the quiz
Right.
at that point, but yeah, that's a really cool idea, especially like especially like if you there are people who take the quiz and get like really into that and get really into like I am this and it's like their thing. Um and so it's cool that the developers of the game recognize that and they're like, how can we tie this in as
Yep.
best as possible? That's super cool.
They did a lot of things. We're probably going to talk about this later.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a whole segment on Hogwarts Legacy, and I can't
Yeah.
wait. Yeah, I am Slytherin. Yes.
There we go.
Surprising nobody.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Absolutely nobody is surprised. Yeah, I mean, I think it fits, I guess, just because I don't know. I just I don't know. I could definitely see myself being a Slytherin. Either that or I've kind of gone through the idea of all of them. I'm like, would I fit into Ravenclaw? Like maybe like Hufflepuff, I could definitely see being a possibility because I'm like a very, very like hyper social person. And I think that's what Hufflepuffs are. They're very like friendly and outgoing and kind of like the socialites. And they're kind of like goofy. They're kind of goofy and weird a lot of the times, at least in the books. So I feel like that kind of fits me as well. So I would have been happy with either of those, which are kind of like opposite ends of the spectrum. But I'm also like maniacal and a total tool sometimes. So Slytherin fits for me. Awesome, cool. So let's see what's next. Let's talk about the movies. We've talked a little bit about the books. I watched the movies for so not for the first time, but for like pretty much the first time. Like I actually like sat down and paid full attention to them. I might have had Hogwarts Legacy going on the side, but I watched the movies straight up. And yeah, I have some thoughts. What do you guys think of how they stack up to the books? Do they do anything better? Do they do anything worse? What do you guys think?
I gotta go no comment on this because I don't think I'm quite ready to answer
Sure.
those questions.
That's okay. Yeah. What do you think, Garrett?
I mean, I think for as an overarching whole, I think they do a pretty darn good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some nuanced differences on the book and the movie. Like I wish one of my favorites is the fourth book, The Goblet of Fire. Like that could have easily been a double part movie.
Oh, it
Like
should have. Yeah.
it should have, because I just wish they would have been able to go into more details on the other contestants in the Triwizard Tournament, like
Yeah.
getting to see them have their parts. But I feel like for the most part, they did a pretty good job comparatively to bring over all her ideas from the books to
Yeah.
the screen. I feel like it's a hard thing to really nitpick, but there are some differences. But for the
Yeah.
most part, yeah, I can't argue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right on.
It's really scarily well done. If you
Yeah.
think about other film adaptations, like the Percy Jackson series, just completely garbage.
Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean
Well,
your book adaptations normally are. I mean, it's no different than your comic book adaptations. They never hit well. They
Right.
usually are just kind of a throwaway title that gets the screen time and goes away. And when you watch these, you're like, they really. I mean, to think that the first movie, if that was their test run, they put everything they could in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Without a doubt.
well, and it had child actors. It's like
Yeah.
the kiss
Yeah.
of death for any movie, and these
Oh man.
they worked. It just
Yeah. And how crazy is it that the kids in those movies have gone on to like that is Harry. Like that is how everybody thinks of Harry. Whether you've read the books or seen the movies, like who Harry Potter is. and
Right.
you see those actors, you know, when you think of it. A couple questions ago, Katie, you mentioned kind of like the nostalgia for Harry Potter, and like how, or maybe it was Garrett that said it, that whether, you know, whatever household you're in, like everybody kind of knows who Harry Potter is and is aware of the series. And I want to say that for me, like while I was playing Hogwarts Legacy, that was also kind of a thing where, because of, it was mostly the movies, it wasn't necessarily the books because I hadn't read them, but because the movies were such a massively prevalent thing, like people from my high school who I would have thought were into like fantasy or Harry Potter or anything were like, oh yeah, we got to go see the last Harry Potter movie, because I think it came out my senior year or something. And like everybody from my school went and saw it, and I'm like, oh wow, it's that popular. But that just says, you know, it's so pervasive and around so much that it's just like, you know, when I started up Hogwarts Legacy and walked into the castle for the first time, I got a wave of nostalgia
It
for
gives you
like,
chills.
yeah,
Yeah.
for like a world that I never really like experienced as a kid. So it speaks a lot to kind of the widespreadness of the series. Yeah, the movies, like I really liked them. It was kind of hard watching them right after the books because the books are such a massive high, but
Yeah.
the movies I was able to watch and really appreciate for how well they did it as far as being true to the spirit of the books, even if it wasn't like, you know, no adaptation is ever going to be like scene for scene or anything, but how true they got it to the storyline and what the book was trying to express. I think the movies did a really, really good job with that. And I really don't have any complaints. Like maybe Goblet of Fire, I would agree, was a little bit weird just because Dumbledore was acting a lot different in that movie than how he does in the books. And, you know, there was just so much to kind of like pack into that movie. It's really hard to do. I think the only one that I really had trouble with was the Half-Blood Prince. And that movie was like, there was like significant changes from the books where I'm like, oh, I really wanted to see like this scene or whatever, and it wasn't there. But I think for all the other ones, including Deathly Hallows, I think all the other ones really, really, really nailed it for me. So I'm happy with them. And yeah, I'll be really excited as we go forward with Potter Watch to it, like in one episode, read the book, watch the movie, and then be able to compare the two. Because what I did this last time was read all the books and then watched all the movies. So by the time I had gone through all the books and then started Sorcerer's Stone, I was like, yeah, maybe that happened in the book. I can't quite remember. So it'll be nice to have like direct comparisons going forward.
I've got a just a quick fact for you guys.
Oh, cool.
Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, the movie, it grossed just shy of $1 trillion at the box office.
Oh my.
Holy shit.
$940 million.
Oh, a billion. You
Wow.
mean a billion? Just
Oh
shy
yeah,
of a
sorry,
billion.
sorry.
Trillion.
I was like $1 trillion.
That's what I meant. Thank you.
Still.
Still,
I
that's a
didn't
lot
even
of money,
notice.
dude. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, there's a lot of money. That's awesome.
I think it has to be said too that they happened at the right time,
Yeah.
where there was
Oh, yeah.
just enough technical prowess, I guess, that they were able to pull off some effects without relying on them entirely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true.
Like if you watch that first movie, Going Down Diagon Alley, there's so much real stuff there.
Practical.
Practicalness of it all.
Real, tangible, and it looks real,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
In a way that movies more recently have not.
It would have
And-
CGI'd it, and
Yeah.
it just wouldn't have came across the
Right.
same way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes me so sad for some of the movies that we're getting nowadays. Like the CGI has gotten really good, but at the same time, it's still CGI. It's like even the best looking video game will probably never look like real life. Maybe like in 100 years or something, but even like the best looking video game is still, you can tell. And some of the new stuff, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of a bummer to see how much CGI there is, and that was definitely something I noticed going back through the movies. I'm like, man, it's such a perfect blend. It's such a good blend of like practical effects, real like on-site locations, and then the CGI like magic and whatnot.
Yeah.
Unless that was real, I don't know. Well, now we can get to what we've all been wanting to talk about because
Yeah.
we keep bringing it up. Let's talk about some of the additional content like Hogwarts Legacy, the fantastic Beasts movies and whatnot, and then if anybody's read like what is it, the Quidditch book? I said it earlier, now I'm forgetting. Quidditch Through the Ages, those kind of like side stories and stuff. Yeah, let's start with Hogwarts Legacy. Let's get that out of the way. What do you guys think about this game?
I don't know if they could have done it any better.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just be frank about it. But the only thing I would say is I kind of wish there was a little bit more with the classes.
Yeah.
I just felt you were more like just a resident that was just hanging out at the school, and
Yeah.
you'd show up to class when you want, and
Yeah.
I kind of would. Part of me wishes they could have went more like a bully style.
Yes, I was gonna say bully.
But I also understand why people might have felt like that would have been taking too much out of the game. I kind of get both sides of it, but
Sure.
that's my only criticism really that I have with it.
Yeah.
I thought all the voice actors, actresses were spot on. The side quests were even great. Like,
oh
Yeah.
my
I mean,
gosh, the side
That's
quests
my
were
favorite
so
part.
good.
They're
Yes.
so well done. Even the smallest, quickest side quest, just the
Yeah.
dialogue itself is worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's
I
like a
always make a-
story to them.
Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
go
No,
here and collect 5
Yeah.
flooper feathers or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like no, there's a
there's a
story.
reason why they
Yeah.
need this to happen.
Yeah.
I always judge a game on their side quests. If I'm going around and I'm doing a lot of the side quests and I'm just enjoying it, that's a telltale sign to me that this is a good game.
Yeah.
Because as much as I like the main story, it's those side adventures that I'm having fun, and how open they really kept the game overall.
Yeah.
Like being able to just hop on your broom wherever and just kind of fly was
Yep.
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Just go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
So
so
cool.
cool.
It was probably the first open world game that I've played that I didn't feel frustrated
Uh-huh.
with how empty it was.
Mhm.
It didn't feel empty. I could
Right.
go
Yep.
anywhere on the map and find something.
Yeah,
Right.
And that was really satisfying.
I agree. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I've been doing the Merlin trials lately. Today,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was going around trying to figure those out. Only a couple I've had to,
Had
use
to
the old
look up
Google
or
search.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Or
There
even
was,
something like the Room of Requirement.
yeah,
Like
that is
yeah.
cool.
that just I was so astonished by
such
how
a
much
good
control
idea.
as simple as growing plants in your room.
Yeah,
But then you had all these side things of the animals and interactions with them.
the breeder's
Eh,
den, and you
Yeah,
can
like
you have to go catch a male and a female animal, and they can breed, and then all of a sudden, dude, that's crazy. What
Yeah.
other?
What other
Exactly.
game lets you
Yeah.
do that?
What
Yeah.
other
and even
game lets
just
you do that?
the customizations of just making your room how you want to make it look
Yeah.
and things like that were just so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I put off the room of requirement for a long time because I was just so busy. I played more of the side quests than I ever did like the main story. Like I would put off the main story for a long time just to do all the like companion quests and stuff. But yeah, finally when I ran out of stuff to do, it was probably like a couple months ago. I was like, oh well, let's dick around in the room of requirement and see what I can do here. And so I made like this big lab with like all these potion stations, and then the other half of the room was like all of these planting stations. And so I set it up in a way where I could like walk in a straight line and go bop 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 and collect
each
all the
one.
ingredients,
That's
and then
cool.
go to the potion station, go bop 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 bop, bop and hit all and make all my
Awesome.
potions. And now I don't run out of potions ever.
You got to get those.
Um,
What are they? Wagon Wild potions?
Yeah,
We wow
exactly.
potions.
The
Yep.
old health potion.
Yeah.
Need
Yep.
that.
And
By the end of the game, I wasn't using health potions.
Yeah,
And it
Oh,
like
yeah.
drove me nuts because I'm a completionist, and they'd be like, "Oh, I missed something on the map. Go back. Oh, I can't even pick it up because this
Right.
is stupid
Can't pick it up because
potion."
it's another
Yeah.
potion.
That's funny.
What I thought was crazy too is how the room kept like expanding. So like
Yeah.
once I put all these like potion stations and whatnot in there, I left for a while, did a couple quests, and came back, and he walks into the room and it goes into a cutscene. I'm like, what is happening? And then all of a sudden the room like gets even bigger. I'm
Yeah.
like, what is this? It's so
Yeah.
crazy.
So cool.
So yeah, I'm loving that. I think it just completely captured me in a way that a game has not in a very long time, and it got me just into Harry Potter in general, so I
Yeah.
can't thank it enough for that. But like the first time that you hop on a broom and the music comes in, like the Harry Potter like epic
Yep.
theme is like, this is awesome, and you're just like flying. Oh, it's so good. They did it so well. They knew exactly what to do for that moment to hit perfectly.
Yep.
And yeah, I completely fell in love with it. The things that I didn't quite enjoy, well, not that I didn't enjoy, but that I would hope that they fix for the next game is I hope they make the RPG system a little bit deeper and like just more like systems, like with the whole like outfit stuff. Like there wasn't a lot of like stats and
Yeah, it was
different
just like defense and offense, and that's really it.
Look for the better
Yeah.
equipment, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And so I think that would have been cool to get a little bit deeper with that. And of course, like the consequences of the game, there's not really like a morality system, and I was really hoping that like if I play as a Slytherin character, I could like make an evil Slytherin. And there's a couple choices at the end of the game that can maybe push you in one direction or
I was gonna
another.
say, I feel like there's a lot of, even in the side quests, like I've noticed, there's a, your first option is the nice one, and then the one below that is like, I went and
vaguely dickish.
yeah, well, there were some that were like really dickish, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, that is brutal.
Yeah.
Like there's this one quest in Hogsmeade where you go into the bridge and there's a goblin and he's looking for some kind of animal, I forget. You go rescue this animal that's his like pride and joy, right? Missing it's like his favorite animal, favorite
Yeah.
dog. You go get it, bring it back to him. He's like, thank you so much, for bringing me my animal back. And your choices are, of course, here you go. Here you can have it for a fee, or no, it's mine now.
Right. Yeah.
Like, dang,
I
dude.
thought those were super funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there was stuff like that. I think my complaint is that it doesn't. There's
Like-
not like it doesn't have like an effect on the
Like a
story.
big change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you play Infamous and you go
or
completely
like
down like
Fable.
or like Fable, yeah,
Fable's
Yeah.
a good one.
you go
There you go.
completely down the dark side. It's like you can have a very different ending than
Yeah.
if you had done the good stuff, or like a Dishonored or something like that. But
Yeah.
Every time the game presented me with a choice, I would quick Google it. Be like,
Yeah.
what are the impacts of my
There-
What
there
am I?
were a
What am I
couple
going to
that
do?
weren't
and they're
intended.
like
I screw it up?
literally none. Like,
Yeah. There were a couple
you're
times
fine.
where, especially stuff with Sebastian, I had to Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure,
Oh, yeah.
make sure that what I said
Yeah.
here was gonna be all right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was a good quest line. That was
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
my favorite quest line in the game. That and
Yeah.
Poppy's quest. I really like
Poppies are
Poppy's
awesome.
quest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, nice. Okay, so what about any other additional content? Like I haven't seen the Fantastic Beasts movies. Have you guys?
I saw the first one
Yes.
for sure. Maybe the second one. I don't remember now.
Okay.
I've seen all three of them. Yes.
All right, and you don't sound too happy about them.
Okay. The first one, I'll be honest. I don't think the first one's necessarily bad. It's okay in its own right. And it just goes downhill from there.
Right.
I mean, the second one.
I heard they didn't even complete them either. Like there was supposed to be another movie or two, and they just stopped.
I mean, there was originally they talked about. I think there was going to be 6 movies total, if I remember right. I could
Dang.
be wrong on that, but like it just kept going downhill, and it's
Downhill.
not.
Can I ask? I haven't seen it, but can I ask in one sense? Like, was it just like did the
Well,
storyline fall off?
I
or-
think the problem is for me,
Mhm.
that since they're trying to keep with the name Fantastic Beasts,
Yeah.
that is, I mean, in its own book, it is the smallest of small books. Like
Yeah.
it's more for. And the first book really did. I think it did a fairly decent job keeping that theme, but from that point
Okay.
on, just drop that part of the name. Like
Gotcha.
Right,
Just
because
yeah.
beasts.
it's
Yeah.
don't even because it has
Not
nothing
even-
from that point on. There's no Fantastic Beasts
Oh,
really anymore.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
In my opinion. I know
Yeah.
I don't. If you ever plan on, I still think they're decent to watch, but you watch them once, and then there was the whole getting rid of Johnny Depp situation, and
Right.
I thought he did a really good job in his role. I like Mad Mikkelsen as well. Mads is a phenomenal bad guy as well. He becomes the new Grindelwald. but the third movie, it just is. It almost doesn't need to exist. It feels like.
Wow.
I don't know. It just
too
really
bad.
went downhill. And
Yeah.
I know, like the shutdowns and things like that caused a lot of problems with the third movie, if I remember right. But it's just really rough.
Gotcha.
for sure.
Timeliness was something it met like just missed
Completely
out
missed.
on
Yeah.
with with
Yes,
COVID, and then with the depth thing, and
it just got one after another, 1-2 punched, and
Yeah.
it really shows.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think to begin with, it showed a lack of understanding of what made Harry Potter work,
Oh.
particularly Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Taking and expanding on the wizarding world is a cool idea in theory, but it wasn't as tight.
Yeah.
It really the like the holes in like the way that magic works and the way that government works, like they really became glaringly obvious, I feel like.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That's my opinion,
Yeah.
Sure.
based on, as you know, what I like about
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Right.
That's
I'll
what
agree
was
with that
missing.
because I mean, it's all taking place in downtown cities, and you don't have
Ah.
that centralized theme essentially of an iconic spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that was maybe similar thing, not like a complaint about Hogwarts Legacy, but I wish we had spent more time in the castle. I absolutely loved everything outside the castle, but after reading the books, I'm like, oh, I want like more content inside the castle,
Yeah.
as well as the stuff outside. And I think when, it really kind of makes you think about Harry Potter in the way where it's like, it's got to be a hard series to expand because the whole thing around it is Hogwarts. And if you go too far outside of Hogwarts, then it's just the Dresden Files. You know what I mean? Like it's not it's not like Harry Potter anymore. So
Right.
yeah, that's got to be a tough thing to tackle for sure.
I think thematically too, with Harry Potter, the friendships are so important. And then to try to take that to an adult
Adult
world,
level.
Yeah.
it didn't work quite as well on
Right.
that level as well.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
if what you want is just more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The first one
that's
is-
kind of how
Yeah.
I felt. I
least.
was like,
Yeah.
I just want more. Should I watch Fantastic
Yeah.
Beasts?
Well, and that's what it felt like they were trying to do. They were grasping for more, and they said, "Hey, let's try to do this." And again, I don't think the first movie's. I don't think it's a bad movie necessarily.
Yeah.
Newt Scamander as a character, I loved his actor. I thought they got him down really well. But I feel like they really lost their way after that point because they go, what do we do now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's not flowing like the movies did previously.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they don't necessarily have the same kind of source material to kind of focus on. So I think they're just
Yeah.
kind of piecing it together. And again, they kind of like how the originals kind of hit the right timing for everything. This one just had all the bad timings possible.
Right. What are you guys excited for the HBO series?
Cautiously.
Yeah.
I was about to say the same thing. Like,
I
I'm
think HBO
hesitantly
can
excited.
do it. If anybody can do it, I think HBO can.
I would agree.
I wouldn't
HBO is a
trust
powerhouse.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust Amazon after Wheel of Time and
Yeah.
Rings of the Lord of the Power or whatever. But
The Lord of the Rings of the Power.
yeah. But I think that I feel pretty confident that HBO can do a pretty good job. Will it be exactly like the books? Probably not, especially in this day and age where some people may look at the books and think, oh, that didn't age that well or whatever. So there might be some things that are changed or whatever, but I think for the most part they'll do a pretty good job. I'm really interested to see who the new actors are because, like I said, after the iconic powerhouse,
They got big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
For sure.
So yeah, that's gonna be wild.
I will be interested to see if they can capture those elements that made the movies.
Capture that magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because like I said, the physical props, I don't know if they can do that anymore. Physical
Yeah.
sets.
Oh yeah.
And then of course the score.
Yeah.
Are
The
we just gonna
score has
borrow
to
the
be
movie
great.
score?
Copy
Yeah.
paste.
Oh man, what an incredible score it just Harry Potter had. Like, it's so iconic. It's so iconic. Let's talk about our maybe pick like one or two. Like, what are your favorite books in the series? And as we go through our Potter Watch episodes, we'll also be doing like when we do our Dresden Files read along, we rank the books each episode. And so we'll do the same thing for Harry Potter and kind of vote as a podcast with whatever guests we have on at the time, and we'll kind of vote for the ranking of the books. But personally, I'm excited to hear what your guys' favorites are. We'll start with Katie.
Sure. I think 3 is probably the undeniable best, but I really like Order of the Phoenix.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Right?
So
That's my least favorite.
really,
Yeah, not because I think it's written poorly or anything. I just hate Umbridge. And like
you're
it,
supposed to hate
I
Umbridge.
know you're supposed to hate her, but she just makes me like,
And I'll give the movies
ah.
props on that, man.
Oh, they did her so well.
transitioned that character to a T.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's very well done.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, Garrett, what's yours?
I kind of mentioned earlier, Goblet of Fire is by
Yeah.
far my favorite. I love you starting to see Harry change into into a higher age. You're seeing him, start interacting with other students from other schools, and just the trials themselves are really cool to kind of envision from the book. And from that age on, you're just seeing more and more the books are shifting in tone, getting more and more darker, more dread going on. And we're starting to see just the realization of the looming threats that are coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What about you, Gabe? Out of the ones you've read so far, what do you think
out
your
of the ones
favorites
I've
are?
read so far, it's book 3.
Book 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I would agree. I think is there like a specific reason, or is it
Um, I wouldn't say specific. I think, because I read them back to back to back, and I think I remember texting you about this, and I think I went into it with more of like a, more
Just
of a
fine.
modern kind
Yeah.
of modern mindset, which I
Yeah.
shouldn't have. But I liked the first 2, but it felt to me that it was just kind of like, we're just getting set up, right? We're
Yeah.
getting people where they need to be. And then the third book is where like, we start to see some mystery and action and Sirius Black and Lupin
Yeah.
and all this stuff. And so I just really enjoyed it. And that's I'm ready to start Goblet of Fire. So that's where I've ended so far.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I would agree. I think yeah, book 3. So if I have two favorites, it's book 3 and the Half-Blood Prince. Those are like with Half-Blood Prince being my absolute favorite. Like I love Deathly Hallows. I really enjoyed that book, but there was something about Half-Blood Prince that captured me completely differently than any of the other books. Like Order of the Phoenix is where things like start to get significantly darker, or no, I would say book 4, Goblet of Fire, is where they start to get significantly darker. And then by the time you get to Half-Blood Prince, it's like people are dying, like everyone is dying. And man, what an incredible story. I love the whole mystery behind who is the Half-Blood Prince. I had no idea that it was Snape. It completely like blew my mind when it happened. I don't know why I didn't guess it. I'm usually pretty good with theories, but it just completely took me by surprise. And I just loved everything with Harry and Dumbledore, like Dumbledore, who's been like this father to Harry, essentially like a stand-in father, someone he can look up to. It's they have a ton of time together in that book and going on this adventure and kind of tracking down who is Voldemort, and just that whole storyline with them in the cave and going to get the different Horcruxes. Oh man, it was fantastic. I could read that book. That's like one of the books I would take with me on like a desert island. Like I love the Half-Blood Prince. And then like you said, Gabe, the book 3 was awesome just because it it's where it all kind of like gets going.
It
Like,
opens,
we
yeah,
are,
it opens
yeah,
up. We
like,
get into the wider picture of things.
yeah, like it's not really monster of the week anymore. It's very like we are moving towards a
Serious
goal.
threats.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's somebody out there.
yeah, and of course, just everything with Sirius Black and Lupin. Lupin is
Yeah.
probably one of my top 3 favorite characters. I
Yep.
love Lupin. And we learn about the Marauders and that whole mystery. That was great. I love that book. All right, favorite characters. Maybe pick one or two favorite characters. We could start with
Close.
Garrett.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Nope, you're good.
Oh, I got to put Mad Eye Moody up there near the top of the
Ooh,
list.
okay.
I think he's just such an interesting character. His backstory of being an aura, and while we don't really get to see him in book 4, we get to see the mannerisms of him mixed in there, and going into book 5 and eventually onward with his story. I just think I don't know, he just gives a no care attitude to life anymore,
Yeah.
and he doesn't take BS from anybody.
Yeah.
And he's his own character, and he makes sure you know that.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't ever apologize for himself.
No.
He's very, what you see is what you get.
Yep.
Well, what about you, Katie?
I probably have to go with the Weasley twins.
Yeah.
I like the attitude that they bring to the group.
Yeah.
They allow a lot of things to happen
Yeah.
in ways that typically in a school setting would not ever happen.
Yeah.
That sort of irreverence and but with the goal and the focus to be on making and creating opportunities for fun.
Yeah.
I think Harry and especially Hermione and Ron to an extent, they take things a bit too seriously for that to happen organically among the 3 of them.
That's so true.
To have a very close adjacent, slightly older couple of characters who insert that into the story is fun.
Well
And I liked that they were older than Ron rather than being like his younger brothers or something, because they're like they're someone that the trio can like look at and they're kind of like mysterious to them. Like they're always off doing something. They have some sort of plan that the trio isn't necessarily included in.
Yeah.
And so I like that they were kind of their own unit off to the side, but came into the story enough for us to become like very attached to them and be like major parts of the story. Yeah, I love the twins.
On like a kid level too, they give the impression that there are other things happening in the larger world.
Yeah, that's so true.
Because as the series ages, we get more of what the adults are doing. But right away from the beginning, we get, oh, the world doesn't just revolve around Harry, right? Like there's other things and people are doing other things with their lives. Right. Interesting things that we would probably enjoy to read about.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For sure. I love that the joke kind of stayed throughout the series where their names get mixed up all the time. And I just reread the first 2 books, and I love that first scene you get of Fred and George where she's talking to the twins on their way through King's Cross, and she's like, "All right, see you, George." And he's like, "I'm Fred. Jesus, woman, you birthed us," or whatever he said. and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." He's like, "No, I'm kidding. I am George." And it's just like they're the friend that you would have that you would be like laughing with and flipping off at the same time. Like,
yeah.
What about you, Gabe? Any favorites so far?
Yeah, so far, I'm gonna exclude the 3 just because, of course, they're kind of the focus. But so far, mine would be Sirius Black.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
Sirius has such an incredible character journey throughout the books, and
even just seeing him in book 3, because I tried to not remember everything I thought I knew from the movies and stuff, because it's been such a long time.
Yeah.
And so at first, I was like, he's the bad guy, right? And then you start to learn that he's really not the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just endeared him to me. Like he's under so much scrutiny, but he's like just trying to do what he has to, right, to make
Yeah.
sure that that everything is okay, I guess, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word.
He like genuinely cares for
Yeah,
Harry.
I mean, he
and
was like best friends with his parents, right? Like he was
Yeah.
like the secret holder, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
He wasn't, but
wait, he wasn't?
No, it was
no, that's
okay.
how they got betrayed.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
He
because
said, "Don't make me the secret keeper
that's
right.
right.
Yeah.
That's
because
right.
everyone will think I am."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
But he was best friends with his parents, and like,
Yeah, they were part
wants
of the
Harry to
Marauders.
succeed and wants to make sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. He's my pick for now. We'll see if
Plus,
that changes.
how cool is he just sitting in Azkaban chilling? Like, can I
Yeah.
read your newspaper? Right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Sirius is so his cool factor
Yeah.
is so high. But yeah, I love just like how much of a sincere heart he has
Yeah.
for Harry. And like you said, he's under so much scrutiny and everybody thinks he's this bad guy. And even like when I was reading The Prisoner of Azkaban for the first time, I was like, oh man, like I went back and forth on it so many times. Like, is Sirius going to be like the red herring, or like is there going to be like a flip where he's actually the good guy? And then I would go back on it like, no, he's got to be the bad guy. And like I would go back and forth. I'm like, man, I just love how well that
Yeah.
was written. For me, it is Dumbledore.
Oh
I
yeah. That's a
love
solid choice.
Dumbledore so much.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the best characters I've read. He's one of the most complex characters I've read, along with like maybe Snape. Snape was surprisingly more complex than I thought he was going to be.
Oh yeah.
But Dumbledore is my pick, just because you're reading the series and at first you think that he doesn't really have any significant invested interest in Harry, that he's just like being a nice guy, and then him and Harry kind of like develop like almost like a father-son relationship, or maybe like an uncle-nephew kind of relationship, and or even just like a grandfatherly relationship, I guess is more accurate. But I love the ups and downs I had with this character, where at first you're like maybe a little bit indifferent, and then you're like, oh, I like this character, and then you're like, oh, I love how much he loves Harry and wants to like support him and care for him. And then you get to Half-Blood Prince, and you're like, they're on this like amazing adventure together, and you're learning so much about him and this past that he has. And then you get into, I think it's in Deathly Hallows, when you realize that Dumbledore kind of had this like master plan, and he's been like pulling the strings all around him, especially on Harry, to like achieve killing Voldemort. And then you have to question, like, did Dumbledore really love Harry, or was it just like part of his plan? And
Right.
like, oh man, I love going through the whole Dumbledore thing, because it's so creative. There's so many ups and downs, and just the scenes with him and Harry are some of my favorites in the series. Also, he's got a lot of really great quotes. I've been wanting to like buy a lot of art recently. For some reason, I've been on this kick of like looking up different like fandom art and stuff that I can like hang and put on my wall. And I keep thinking, oh, this would be a great quote to have on my wall. This would be a great quote. And then I realize that they're all from Dumbledore. Like, oh man, he has so many good lines. But yeah, I think my favorite from him is happiness can be found in even the darkest of places, if only you remember to turn on the light. It's such a good quote. It's such a good
Yeah.
Dumbledore line. He's got a million of them.
That quote really goes with Rowling's philosophy too, of she's been criticized because it might be a little dark for kids.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she has said, like many authors before her, right, that
Yeah.
it's okay to have that kind of stuff,
Right.
because there's the flip side. You don't just leave it there, right?
Right.
You point out the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why kids appreciated it, right? Is because they weren't being talked down to. Like, they weren't being like just positive, positive, positive. It's like, no, I'll show you like both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Because that's how life is. And that's what I really appreciate. And I think that, you asked about some of my early misconceptions of the series. I didn't think this was going to be dark at all. And like, I was like, oh, it's just going to be like this bright and happy thing. And it's like, no, like it's pretty like realistic as far as like the balance between dark and light, I think.
Well, it's really continuing the great fantasy conversation about good versus evil,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
I think it surprises people.
Yeah, it's literally getting young readers ready for like the higher tier fantasy, or like higher tier, but you know what I mean, like older fantasy. Because I'm sure Harry Potter, like we see so many people getting into fantasy and sci-fi nowadays, and I'm sure that Harry Potter played a massive
It's a good
role
gateway.
in that. Yeah.
It's a great
So
gateway, yeah.
all right, we are at the end of our thing. We just got to talk about favorite moments. Does anybody have one or two favorite moments from the series that really stick out when you think back on your time reading the books?
I'll start, or
go ahead.
Okay. All right. Mine's quick because I've only read to book 3, but mine's probably towards the end of book 3 when Hermione or Dumbledore, locks him in the room, and Hermione's like, I have this necklace.
Oh,
and
yeah.
basically wants him to kind of save Sirius, right, from condemnation.
Yeah.
And that whole scene from then on out with them kind of behind the scenes and Harry and his Patronum, all that, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a great one.
Yeah, and that's it.
That was a great one.
Mine is Order of the Phoenix. Fred George leaving. So
that kind of
that's goes along with my favorite book and my favorite characters.
Yeah.
It's a very catastrophic moment where very, very suddenly and abruptly something very, very good sort of explodes on the scene. Very, very satisfying situation.
100%. Yeah.
I think for mine, it's from Order of the Phoenix is the gang going to get the prophecy, and that whole leading up to and the confrontation there at the end of it all and everything like that. It's just reading that, and then when you watch the movie and it just helps paint that even more. It's just kind of it's when the gangs really are put to the fire. Like I feel like that is a prime example of now the real world is biting at their heels and what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, the movies did that so well too. Like I feel like it, like both of those, like how the movie did it and how the book describes it are like kind of one and the same. Like
they did a really good job bringing that to the screen, and it's one of those scenes that when you get through it, it really kind of sticks with you because you figure these are kids fighting adults essentially, and it's just kind of crazy to think of it like that.
Yeah.
And what a fantastic expansion of the known world from that point. Because like if you think about that like the tangible magical objects and things that we've been exposed to, and then going into the Ministry of Magic and seeing sort of behind the scenes all of like the creepy weird stuff, and just like with the other things, it's not explained. Like, some of them are just described and that's it, and that's all you get.
That's all you
get.
But
it's enough to be like, whoa, this is like a bigger, more complex world than I had thought. In a new sort of darker way that brings up the tension. It's just fantastic.
And what you said there makes me wonder, do you think that a series, if they, you mentioned expanding on the world and showing a different like location, like the Ministry of Magic and all that. Do you think that a series could be successful if they did like another series in the world of Harry Potter where it's either another school or another like a series about the Ministry of Magic? Do you think that would be successful?
I think that would be better.
Yeah.
I think another school, it would be an interesting one, especially if they ever decided to look at like there's the schools in the Americas and things like that, even that you can there's a whole side thing for that. But even just the other schools in general, I think would be very interesting, even as a kind of a mini series kind of idea, or a small book series would be really cool to see. The Ministry would be an interesting one, especially you're gonna kind of might dance a little too close to what Fantastic Beasts ran into. We're going to have a lot more adults in there, and you're going to have to find that way to make those adults
whimsical,
be able to have that connection to them in the same aspects.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It would potentially work as a fantasy work serial, right? Like where you have these
almost like an urban fantasy.
Yeah. some you
Yeah.
have like adult interactions around your job.
Right.
I am not suggesting that they should do The Office.
Yeah.
You're just
The
putting the words out of my
Office.
mouth. There we go.
But
Let's
like,
just do
Ministry of
that.
Magic.
Screw it.
Yeah.
that kind of thing,
I
right?
was
Where
literally going to say that.
It was it on Ministry of Magic. That'd be fantastic.
but I think for me, having that strong sense of place
Yeah.
is important to the
Mhm.
to the feeling of Harry Potter. So having it grounded, a side story grounded in that same way, I think would work better
Yeah.
than dropping them in the middle of everywhere America, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kansas City, the old Kansas Hogwarts.
I know, Kansas man, yeah, if we have any viewers out there that are good with like fan edits and stuff, please just take like all the parts from Order of the Phoenix and put it to the Office theme. That would be
Yeah.
that would be great.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, okay, so my two favorite moments, and I have a million of them. I'm not gonna go through. I'm gonna go through two. I'm gonna stick to two.
There
That's
you
my
go. Good
promise.
man. Good man. Good man. I'm gonna keep you
but-
to it though.
Yeah. But like as we go through the episodes, I'm sure we'll have like favorite moments of each book and whatnot, and you guys can hear some of my other ones. My favorite moments are I don't know why I'm like such a glutton for punishment, but like my favorite moments are the ones that make me cry. So
You just love feeling emotion, dude.
I guess it's because I'm so cold 99% of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But my first one, probably not like my top one, is when Dobby dies, and that
Okay.
one absolutely crushed me. Like Dobby's funeral was so awful, especially because he was a character that I did not expect to die in the slightest. And it was kind of funny because I didn't realize how much I cared about Dobby until he like
Yep.
died, and then I'm like, man, that's so like true for real life too.
Yeah, you didn't know what you had until it was gone.
Yeah, I'm like, all of a sudden when he died, I'm like, no, not Dobby. Whereas before I was like, oh yeah, Dobby's cool. But then when that happened, it just like completely crushed me. And then my number one favorite moment in this discussion is the Mirror of Erised. That was the moment, like when he sneaks upstairs and finds the mirror and like sees his parents for the first time. That I think that was one of the first times that I texted our WhatsApp group, and I'm like, wow, like this is something special. And then especially when Dumbledore shows up and Harry doesn't realize he's there, and he's like just kind of pops out of nowhere, and Harry thinks that he's gonna like tell him to get to bed, or why are you out later, like he's gonna be reprimanded somehow. And instead Dumbledore comes in and like sits next to him and talks to him about what Harry is seeing in the mirror and why he's seeing what he's seeing. And then he lies about what he sees in the mirror. And it was just such a great moment. It was such a wholesome moment. And it was so cool to see this character who has been so lonely his entire life and so incredibly mistreated have like this one moment of love from his parents. It completely got me. It completely wrecked my day.
It was a good parenting situation where Dumbledore is acting in a parental role
right.
of addressing like the actual problem instead of like the rule problem.
Like the surface level.
For the rest of his life, Harry continues to break that same rule. So
Dumbledore, I am
to be addressed.
I am convinced that Dumbledore does not care at all what they do. Like they could do anything, and he'd be like 50 points to Slytherin or to Gryffindor. Now I'm thinking Slytherin now that I'm an official Slytherin.
You're an official Slytherin.
Oh. All right. Well, that kind of wraps up our episode. I guess we'll do any final thoughts as we're, looking forward to future episodes. I don't know if you guys would like to come back for future episodes. You're more than willing if you would like to read one of the future books with us. Maybe you can crank out the audiobook. They're really not that long on Audible. I think the first two books are only like 5 hours. And then they get progressively longer, with Goblet of Fire kind of being an anomaly, being a little bit longer than
it's a
most
biggie.
of them. But But yeah, if you guys would like to come back, that would be great. If you guys did, what do you think you'd be most excited to talk about? Like any specific like character arcs or story beats or books, or what would you guys be looking forward to the most?
Oh, it's been a long time since I've just geeked out about Harry Potter, so I'm
Yeah.
just I'm excited to talk
Same
about
here.
it.
Yeah.
About any of it,
Yeah.
yeah.
They don't need any story beats, dude. It's Harry
Yeah,
Potter.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah,
Nice.
I love it. It's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to what now that I've like read through the entire thing, what I'm really looking forward to starting from book 1 is watching Dumbledore and trying to like watch his master plan unfold, because it's very clear at the end of the books, right from the beginning, he is manipulating everything, not in like a bad way necessarily, but his goal is to kill Voldemort. And so like right from the beginning, he's got like all these things working around him. And so I'm really eager to like start from the beginning again and kind of try to like track like where his mind is at any given time.
At those points.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that. What about you, Gabe? Anything specifically?
I'm just looking forward to reading the rest of
Yeah.
the series. I read Goblet of Fire by itself a long, long time ago.
Oh, okay.
And I just remember feeling so elated towards it and just so excited. It's all I could think about,
Yeah.
but I've forgotten quite a bit of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm tomorrow's Monday. I'm gonna listen to it at work, and
Woo!
I'm stoked about it.
Let's go.
Yep.
My favorite character up to that point dies in that book, and I was really sad. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and just talking Harry Potter. I've been looking forward to this. Now I feel like I read them for the first time this year, and I'm just like preaching from the rooftops the good gospel of Harry Potter, like telling
You're
all
used
my
to
friends.
doing it.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
I'm
right.
like, you have to read them, and they're like, this is so random. You just like got it. Like my friends who aren't really like into fantasy and
You're
stuff.
like, you
they're
just read it, dude.
they're like, what? You're like into Harry Potter now? And I'm like, yes, please read it. And they're like, I'm not gonna read Harry Potter. I'm like, please, if you love me, read Harry
That's
Potter.
right.
Like,
If you care about me at all, you will read
Yeah.
this.
So yeah, I'm super excited. And yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and chatting for a bit.
Appreciate
about
it.
the wonderful wizarding world of Harry
right.
Potter. All right, everyone, it is time to go back to our house common rooms and prepare for this exciting series of episodes ahead of us. We're going to try to bring these episodes to you pretty regularly. I can't promise that they will be exactly once a month, but we will definitely be going through the entire series this next year, and I can't wait to discuss it with my co-hosts and all the guests that we have lined up for future episodes. Let us know down below in the comments what your favorite Harry Potter moments are and what Harry Potter books or movies you're most looking forward to watching us discuss and discussing with us. Again, you can reach out to us on Twitter, Discord, and Patreon. We always love chatting with you guys. And also let us know if you would like to be on the show to discuss one of the books or movies. That's always really fun when we get a fan who just wants to come hang out with us and chat about fantasy. But that's it for us today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Have a very Merry Christmas. And until next time, this mischief has been managed.
Nice.
And a big shout out to our first Night Angel tier patron, Shad Zaman. Thank you so much, man.